welcome back. It's day 3 of the group stages here at the HGC Finals 2018. My name is Kevin. We're having a good time here, aren't we, guys? Those of you here in the audience, you wish you were here, you stream folks. You would never know just how bright these lights are unless you were sitting in this audience. I see you guys. Every time I do an intro, the lights pan across. Yeah, you should hear the laughter here now. Anyways, things are going great. We're having a good time. We're one match in. We got plenty more to go today. First match, we saw Gen G take a solid 2-0 victory over Luna Meow. Unfortunately, that means Luna Meow is going to have to call an end to their season. They will no longer be able to make a run for the BlizzCon stage next week. Up next, we've got Tempo Storm from North America versus Miracle from KR. Tempo Storm, there's still an edge case that they could have to tie and duke it out for a spot. If they could just get one victory off Miracle, one match, one game, then that would seal their spot on the BlizzCon stage. Can they do it? It's a tall task. I'm gonna take you over to Gillyweed now to talk it through.
Yes, one of Gen G's toughest competitors for the top of the group is up next. That is Miracle, the team that has beaten them twice in the phase. I am Gillyweed and I'm here with Skimmy and Wolf. You guys were casting the last match. Gen G did Gen G things. Yeah.
Business as usual.
There wasn't a lot of bleeding.
I don't think there were any doubts, right?
Yeah, you guys were talking about like getting a whetstone, sharpening some knives, but that takes time.
It does.
Yeah,
I
Stone
think
that was coming at them.
we're talking 2019 for Luna Meow. Maybe that's their year, but it's not this year, unfortunately.
Yeah, it is unfortunate for Luna Meow, but I do still feel like there were a lot of adjustments made for them in total throughout the group stage. And it does still give them time maybe to get some more practice in, spend some time here versus teams, and of course, see the sights of LA. That's something you want to do probably, Skimmy, right?
I mean, I do. It's actually what me and Wolf were saying. We're like, oh, we hope they don't just go back to the hotel and be like, damn, like we lost. I guess we prep for tomorrow, and then be like, oh, you know, it's 7 p.m. I guess should I call it a day? Like, should I sleep? Like,
There's added benefits to qualifying for this tournament outside of the group stage itself and qualifying for Anaheim. I mean, you get to experience what BlizzCon is like. You get to, I think for a lot of people, talked to McIntyre about it, for example, and Crowan sitting in that crowd at BlizzCon watching that is like perhaps what motivates you to, you know, next time you make it that far, maybe you make the semis, you know, that's something you can experience, and it can be something that makes you feel like, I want to earn this, and I think that's pretty cool.
Well, as we take a look at the groups and the standings within that, Gen G getting 3 more points from that 2-0 puts them back at the top. But that one game loss versus Liquid may come back to haunt them if Miracle keeps going on the tear they are going on. They have Tempo Storm up next. We haven't seen Gen G versus Miracle. I know Gen G would love to get revenge, Wolf, against them from the league play.
That's going to be tomorrow. So if Miracle is able to 2-0, obviously against Tempo Storm, they'll be 8-0 in the group. So Gen G will have to take a map off of them to then, or actually they'll have to 2-0 them in order to pass them directly. Or we'll have a tiebreaker with the 8-1 tie after that. So this match and that match have massive implications for first seed going into the group stage against you know, who will end up facing in the bottom, which is very likely to be the one of Group B. So very, very exciting stuff coming up here, and I'm excited to see if Gen G has figured out how to tackle this team. To be honest, I'm not sold. I don't think that Miracle will lose to Gen G. I think they might actually be able to take the whole thing. The only concern I had for Miracle going into this group stage was, for most of these players, 3 of the 5, it's their first LAN, it's their first big event. Will they choke under the pressure? And we watched their very first game, I was like, oh, I'm feeling that. But now it's over. Like, this is, Tempo Storm feels like nothing to them, I think, at this point on the stage. Even though the crowd that they're playing for is an American crowd, Tempo Storm's the American favorites, I don't think that's going to phase them at all.
On deck beyond that are a few more awesome matches. Don't forget, we've got 6 best of 2s coming at you throughout today with a lot of really good stuff. Again, I'm looking forward to Heroes Hearth versus the One. I think that one's going to be a really good one to watch.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. The One, as we've said already, have definitely shown up at this tournament. They've put in so much preparation, absolutely demolishing ANZ in what was a very one-sided affair earlier at the mid-season brawl. So I think they are that dark horse, that wild card that, you know, if you are a neutral coming into this tournament, you're looking for somebody to cheer on, the One has to be that go-to.
Well, Wolf, you were talking about Miracle and how they don't have fear. Like, you feel like they don't have any fear for Tempo Storm. And I want to take it even back further because they were in a very high-pressure, high-stakes situation playing versus Ballistics in the playoffs. And for Sniper, we knew he wanted to get back to BlizzCon, and now he has a chance to get some revenge because Sniper is going up against Fan, Cloud9 ex-player who knocked him out of the last BlizzCon he attended. I want to know your sincere thoughts. How the heck did Miracle do it? How did they take out Ballistics to get here?
I think Ballistics, if we're honest, has had a really rough year, and I think that SC is kind of the focal point of that. His hero pool in this meta doesn't really work out very well, and he's ended up getting caught in a lot of awkward drafts where his main heroes were banned out. And I think that there was a kind of changing of the guard there in those playoffs where everyone kind of realized at some point, okay, Miracle's defeated. They've defeated Ballistics, then they've defeated Gen G, they defeat Ballistics in the playoffs. And I think that the turning point really was Judy becoming not the weak link of this team, but actually the strong link, the engaged tank. And the meta suits him so well. Miracle was able to adapt and change so quickly throughout the course of 2018. The beginning of the season, they were a very weak team. Now, completely different. Whereas Ballistics, on the other hand, is not here because they failed to adapt. They failed to change. They were stuck in the old Hanzo Genji meta. Phoenix, SC's hero pool, again, very small. And so Miracle just passed them. And now in this tournament, they come in very similar playstyle to Gen G. And I wonder if Tempo Storm failed against Gen G with their unusual tactics, the Tank Luther, for example. Can they beat this team, the team that's the only team that could defeat Gen G in the world right now?
Yeah, I think if you're looking at Miracle, they have so many star-studded players, especially Sniper, as you point out. But for me, the one I always look forward to seeing is Blue Beetle. Blue Beetle on that support, he's always making an impact, especially on Decade Kane. That's going to be a big turning point because we've seen the supports, especially in this meta, make such a big effect on how these fights can then shape out. We saw in some of the replays yesterday in terms of the ability, especially with the Decade Kane, to reduce that healing and just get that one-shot blow-up potential. And you also mentioned, I mean, if we're comparing both of these styles to these teams, very, very different. Whereas
3 players that are brand new to BlizzCon, Tempo Storm has 3 players with 3 BlizzCons worth of experience, and Fan has 1. They have a wealth of knowledge to draw upon to continue figuring out what needs to change for them, because it does feel like things need to change. It felt like that versus Team Liquid. And, you know, Fan tweeted out, he tweeted and he said, controversial opinion, these 2 games versus Liquid were really, really free. Felt free to him, and I don't know that I agree with that sentiment. What do you guys feel?
I personally feel that he's made a lot of controversial statements as of late, claiming he's the best Flex player, claiming that those games were free when results will speak otherwise, right? But I think that this team has always, no matter who's won it, whatever, no matter what roster, has always had kind of a cocky, this is our tournament, this is our BlizzCon attitude. And they've gotten close a few times, but it's really reminiscent, actually, to me, to go back to the Cloud9 thing, is this team is breaking the meta again. Cloud9 was playing murky. That's how they beat DK. That's how they defeated Sniper last time. But that was before Korea had leveled up. That's before there were a lot of good Korean teams, or really only 2 at the time, TNL and MVP Black. So when you're trying to, if you're trying to use Uther here again, and you're trying to play those styles, I think you've already figured out that doesn't work. Like, I hope we don't see that.
Right, and he did say that he felt like it was because they weren't executing their basic win conditions, but at the other side of that, things like having Malthael bait over the Tyrael, or the Diablo combo, and then engaging from that, Liquid figured that out, and Liquid got 2 picks on Dragonshire with Sport Billy, and then Arcaner was an absolute beast. So it felt to me like Liquid was the stronger team. It felt like Liquid had everything figured out, but maybe there's still more up the sleeves of Tempo Storm. We're going to go to the Battleground pool and see where the teams will be fighting for game number 1 in this best of 2. Do you guys feel like this is time for adjustment, Skimmy, for Tempo Storm?
Absolutely. I mean, we discussed it on the desk yesterday about just how rigid Tempo Storm have been with some of these picks, always going for this Malthael, always going for the Uther, as you bring up as well. And I said it, you know, in that Team Liquid series, how much are they prepared to show in terms of getting out of this group? You know, currently sitting in that 4th spot, it's guaranteed that they are going to qualify, but it's that 4th spot where you really want to be. Can you push the envelope any further?
Let's start with the Battlegrounds. So let's check out the 2 bans from both of the teams. Bans on Battlefield of Eternity. Tempo Storm has been switching back and forth between that. Miracle banning Cursed Hollow, and then finally Shrines will be the first place we go, picked by Miracle themselves.
I love to see the ban on Cursed Hollow from Miracle. It shows such an evolution. When they were MVP Miracle before losing that sponsorship, this was the Cursed Hollow was their best map, and they were so good at controlling the early game. but going into Infernal Shrines, making a different map, not even using the Towers of Doom that they have had as a crutch for so long, just shows a lot of maturity, a lot of growth from this squad. And that's really the story for me. Is this is quite literally a miracle. 2017 results for this squad, absolutely abysmal. 2018, weak. At the end of 2018 only is when they're able to really step it up, and the Uther ban comes out, so
gotta change it now.
I thought Tempo would change it up, but I guess Miracle is just not even gonna allow it.
Well, you can make the argument for every time you saw it for Tempo Storm. They played the top and the bottom of the group, and neither of them are going to give you the right information of, is this actually going to work for us competitively? So then you do one time versus Team Liquid. They did, it didn't work, and then they saw the adjustments. That's when they made the change. They brought in the Arthas. They did something different with the Sergeant Hammer and Dragon Share. So it's understandable how far Tempo Storm went with it, but I too am ready to see some adjustments and changes for them for this crucial match.
Look, I quite like what Miracle done here by taking out the Uther especially, but the Medivh is the standard ban, right? You know, you're looking to try and deny something that gives you that engagement potential. We've seen how disastrous that can be, especially in the meta that does definitely favor the likes of a Jaina, a Rain, or somebody in the backline that can just sort of sit there and get the job done. And that's usually being paired with, you know, a Garrosh and Arthas, some way to sort of shut down these auto-attack based heroes. So you've got a Tyrande, fantastic early pick, but then you flipped it to the other side, and you just have so much engagement potential.
Kerrigan could be here. Malthael's likely to be here. No, neither of them. They give up having Malthael. That's how their drafts had been on Shrines up to this point. First picking Tyrande and then getting Malthael in this next rotation. So showing that those changes are continuing to come in and make sure that they get their Arthas, because Miracle have played it before.
I think the Arthas is really smart actually against Maiev, because if you're going to look for a hard engage on Maiev and you're getting up in the faces of members trying to get those tethers, it makes it a lot more difficult to maintain your position.
Oh.
It's the ban once again onto Glaurung, sort of, it's really forcing it, right? Those are the two key points I brought up before. Caterpillar on the Uther and Glaurung on the Malthael. So now you've got a situation where you're like, well, do you play the Dahaka? Is that your default you know, result? Or are you going to try and really spice things up and play an Illidan? And if I look at a Maiev and a Garrosh, I'm like, yeah, Illidan doesn't seem too attractive.
No, certainly not. And I think that there's a high chance that Miracle, knowing Tempo Storm, and also because it's one of Natrogen's best heroes, will actually grab the Dahaka themselves in this rotation, prevent that from being utilized for Tempo Storm, force the Arthas to be played perhaps as a solo laner rather than as a main tank. I don't know how comfortable Tempo Storm will feel in that kind of swap of positionings for the hero. The other question is, of course, the support. We've seen a lot of Alex Strasser in Korea on this map, but I don't think this is the map, or sorry, this is the draft you're going to see that with, and it will be Deckard instead.
This is something that Tempo Storm has historically run in the past, the Maiev with a Hanzo. Sometimes seeing, you would love to see the Jaina with that. She can put so much damage on the inside of that Warden's Cage, but that's why we saw the ban. It was excellently done by Tempo Storm. But instead, you still have a Dragon's Arrow to follow up from that. There is still an Illidan. Glaurung's moving into Illidan, and then Tassadar to complete that double support for Tempo Storm.
The Medivh behind the Illidan would have been so nice to really give him that get out of jail free card when he jumps in with that dive, just to say, look, okay, if I am taunted, if I am going to be locked in place for a few seconds, I'm not going to get blown up. The Tassadar does give that insurance, and it does, more importantly, function in the same way as the Medivh by giving you the Oracle, giving you that vision, so you cannot be surprised by these gank bushes.
Oh.
I was thinking this. I had this in my brain. Sonya is so good here in the solo lane matchup, obviously on a map where you have the control of the shrines as your main priority of the objective, plus Deckard's sustained healing. Then the ability to stun Illidan with a spear. There's so many ways you could use Sonya here, and this is Miracle exclusive, basically, almost globally. I mean, no one else is really running Sonya on this battleground right now, so it's such a nice pickup here, and what a fun matchup it will be to see Glaurung versus Natrogen, you know, in that melee role. With the double support. Like this is why BlizzCon is awesome, right? Because you get to see these two champions, you know, face off, and it's going to be really fun.
This is the first Sonya of the tournament as well.
Yes.
You know, bear in mind, right? Kerrigan has had so much like you know, interest based on her rework, based on the map itself. It was a staple. It's come back, and then everyone's sort of forgotten the fact that, hey, for a minute, Sonya was the go-to as well.
Well, Illidan Sonya is a very old school 1v1 matchup, so
Yeah.
that's going to be really exciting to see. Tassadar is also going to be enabling both Raynor and Illidan very well with his ability to give the life leech from that. I'm a little bit concerned if this is fans Tassadar. We know how in your face he likes to be as a Tassadar, and Vin was picked on slightly by Team Liquid. There is a lot of lockdown and things to stop maybe a potential dimensional shift, and there's not a whole lot of ways to stop Whirlwind from Sonya. So especially if she gets Hurricane at 4, then the roots are even no longer a thing for locking her down.
My concern too is that when you look at the Arthas and the Illidan, it's very frontline based to get Raynor into position, but you have to really, you can't just slowly edge forward. You actually have to kind of commit or not.
Sure.
And if you do commit, Illidan going in, Arthas coming and looking for those roots, that leaves Raynor vulnerable, and that's when Sonya can flank, catch him, and it becomes a very risky situation.
Right. Well, I'm pumped for this one. It feels very old school, but also very awesome to have Miracle going up against Tempo Storm. And what better duo to bring it to you than my friends Jay Howe and Dreadnought. Take it away, guys.
Speaking of old school, I've got a co-caster that kept saying something about Illidan, and finally they came out with this Joker card, and this is the hand that they've been dealt. The Illidan's back.
I'm surprised at how much Illidan, though, we are here getting from Tempo Storm, and mainly looking at Nacho Jim with that Sonya selection, he is going to be an absolute monster in this game. I feel like Tempo Storm with that last pick has a lot of questions that they're going to have to answer here on Shrines.
It seems like they had a strategy before when they went against the Korean team was maybe ignore some of the first Shrines. We'll figure out how that happens here as it's time for Tempo Storm versus Miracle, and on this left side will be that of Tempo Storm as Glaurung will be on that Illidan. Fan actually on the Raynor this game. Caterpillar on the Arthas. Vin moving over to that Tassadar, and June will be on the support with Tyrande. That is Tempo Storm.
And in the red here, we're going to have Miracle, where Sniper will be on the Maiev. Frankel representing on the Hanzo. Sonya, played by Nacho Jin. Blue Beetle on his legendary Deckard Cain, and Judy on his equally as legendary Garrosh. These two very much, I feel like, staple heroes when I think of these two players. They are on the Deckard Cain and the Garrosh for Blue Beetle and Judy.
Well, Dread, let's just talk about this right out of the gate. I think the analysis panel hit this. They're like, well, Fan loves to be aggressive on Tassadar. Vin's been on Raynor so much. But they're switching it up here. This is a very different feel. Maybe some changes in the middle of this, as it's traditionally been that way with Van on that Tassadar. So a change up right out of the gate for Tempo Storm.
Yeah, and I automatically have got to wonder, you know, is Vin going to be able to handle some of the pressure that we get out of the Sonya? Because that's actually a really good matchup in favor of the Sonya more often than not, because of her ability to threaten the dimensional shift, dimensional warp out from that Tassadar. And you really can't have that in these type of situations. Yes, Illidan is probably going to be the main target for the Sonya, but just being able to threaten that and then reinitiate is probably going to be a go-to strategy here for Miracle throughout this game.
It's going to be an interesting one to see how aggressive Glaurung is in these team fights, because he's got so much facing him with that Maiev, the Garrosh, and the Sonya. We'll see exactly how that goes. I really want to see, because the first Shrine Dreadnought will be in that bottom lane. You can expect Tempo Storm, as the other side will, play around those camps up at the top, the Shaman camp. See if you can get some of that play around that and ignore that. But this is a very aggressive start here for Miracle. They're just walking down Tempo Storm right now.
Yeah, and able to get a lot of threat there, though Tempo Storm did end up picking up the camp itself. And I want to raise some of the kind of concerns already a minute and a half into this game. Illidan is absolutely getting dominated in that lane, but that's expected. That's the matchup. There is no skill, there is no nothing that is going to be able to change the outcome. But the fact that Miracle is picking up camps faster within the 4, and they're threatening on multiple objectives. Right now, every single lane Miracle is in control of over Tempo Storm.
Yeah, we saw in that picture is that one tower already fell. Now it's not a lot of experience, but it's just overall control. When you do finally get to those lanes, it makes it easier to push some of that down. Vin being targeted there, nice slow and root potential set up by Blue Beetle, but when you're not winning that lane, you can't get that double soak rotation in with an Illidan that early, and it's something Tempo Storm will do to maybe look for an invade or a defense of an invade. And so far, they've just kind of been playing very cautious, very passive, and they've been forced that way because of the way Miracle has come out in this game.
Tempo will be able to sniff out the Sentinel here, though. Be able to realize that the Shaman camp is picked up, mirrored on their half as well, with 25 seconds out from the next shrine, the very first shrine of this game. And one thing I do want to point out is when looking at Miracle, I'm expecting us to move into the Emerald. They are one of the best teams to use Emerald to get the healing debuff and one-shot a target. And a hero that is very, very susceptible to that, Arthas. He is going to very predictably pop Army of the Dead, try and rely on that healing, and 75% reduction. If Miracle can get that focus fire, Tempo Storm has got a lot of concerns. Not going to be here yet, but we'll see how this moves as we have this shrine spawn.
Well, you mentioned healing. We actually see Deathlord picked up at level 4. It doesn't mean you have to use it for healing purposes, but you get the cooldown reduction on your Death Coil, and you increase its range. Say maybe Illidan goes Hunt in that later game. The Hanzo or the Decker can be a priority target. Maybe try and get some extra range, get some damage in on that, but it also can help contribute for the sustain style. We'll see how that goes as that tribute being focused on by Miracle, while Tempo Storm had their attention in the top. Dreadnought hasn't paid off very well yet.
I do think that this was the safer choice, though, for Tempo Storm, considering the compositions, because Sonya has to be the individual to move over towards the shrine itself. They can't go with that equal match because Sonya has in a laning mismatch, right? The Illidan can't go in the off lane and do what he normally does in these situations. So I appreciate that they were willing to kind of give that up, let the Sonya solo cap, because the first objective typically is not going to gain too much in favor here of Miracle as we see them try to get the siege. Nice Howling Blast out from Cattle, having to dodge the scroll ceiling. He wove Groundbreaker through, damage coming out, but Cattle with the heals actually surviving for now. Nocto Jin wastes no time with that into the fray, and they find first blood here on Caterpillar.
Well, they also have the rotation down. Sniper came in on that Maiev, cleared up that mid lane, said let's get the rotation down. It's a Korean special, whether it's the Immortals, whether it's the Punishers. The minute that starts to move, they take care of one lane, and then they dive directly behind that fort. And if that fort goes down, which they're fortunate enough to keep that alive, they already have a 1-level lead, does Miracle. But for Tempo Storm, had that fort fallen, it's early snowball potential. They avoided it for now, but they do have a lot of ground to make up here in the early game.
And I think for Tempo Storm, normally in this situation, you would go, you know, it's not going to be that detrimental, but I want to bring it back to the original laning circumstances we saw. Miracle was in control, and so now with Objective 1 going in favor of Miracle and the sieging capabilities going in favor of them, this downtime, they're going to be in control again, which is why we see this invade. Tempo has to adjust something here as they try to skirmish. Nice into the fray there from Judy.
Well, Frankel's under assault there. Glaurung found his way in, but Judy has been making the plays on the Garrosh, and now it's all hands on deck from both teams. We've got a skirmish over this, and Miracle, they're willing to fight right now. Glaurung on the backside, but you can see Sniper and team just living on this point right now, Dreadnought.
And the whole time, Frankel is actually getting the siege on bottom, trying to zone off Illidan, and he will do so. There we see the slow coming out from Blue Beetle. Cattle very low on mana. Scrollless Ceiling will be able to be dodged. Camp acquired here for Miracle. But Tempo Storm able to barely hold on in that skirmish.
This team for Tempo Storm will come on the later this game goes. Only 5 stacks on that level 1 for Arthas, 4 Glaurung on that Illidan. He's 15 out of 20. It's an infinite stacking quest, but you want to hit that 20 mark because that's when you get the extra bonus on the soft completion of that. So that will help him do some damage because on that backside, Decker's just like, here's a potion for you. Here's a potion for you. Garrosh can keep himself alive, the whirlwind of Sonya, so your resources don't have to be spread as thin, and you really need more of that power level to come online. Tassadar, Illidan, all late game heroes, Dreadnought.
They are a lot of the late game heroes, and now we see Miracle acquiring the 10. They throw out the Dragon's Arrow. It's not going to connect on to Vin, actually. They're on that Tassadar, a bit of a through the upright circumstance. Bold move, but that is honestly one of those very forgiving ones based on the stance that Miracle is in. That cooldown will be up about the exact same time that Tempo Storm hits their heroics. It was just a nice, clever attempt there to try and find a way to catch off Tempo Storm, but when looking at the heroics, everything is about what we would expect, except for Maiev, yet to commit here. Warden's Cage versus that Containment Disc.
Be interesting to see what route we go here, depending on what we pick. Level 10 nearing here for Tempo Storm. They're keeping Glaurung off in the solo lane. His retreat point is very, very far to safety here. See how safe he approaches this. We know we've seen him be very aggressive in lane, sometimes over-committed. But 10 now picked up. Hunt will be the lock-in. Warden's Cage will be the response.
I was wondering if it would be the Containment Disc over the Warden's Cage, even though the Warden's Cage does bring the fight a lot better. Miracle, I think, have an amazing teamfight comp. Just purely on Illidan, when he doesn't have a full resources available, he is the significantly weaker hero. Hold on, though. Vin getting caught out with that Groundbreaker. That's a very early dimensional shift. That is something that Miracle likely will find a way to capitalize on here as we have the Shrine started. Illidan now just joining the rest of the ranks of Tempo. Hunt coming in onto Frankel. Not going to pack the punch they want. No dimensional warp, forcing out that Archon. Warlord's challenge is there, and look at that. Stay a while and listen.
That's unfortunate. You mentioned that early dimensional shift. The Archon comes out maybe a little earlier than they wanted. You get the reset on that dimensional shift, so that was forced out. Tempo Storm has spot space, but they've used a lot of resources to get their Dreadnought. A lot of those big cooldowns are there, but Tempo Storm starting to make moves onto the Shrine. They'll rotate out to a safer position as Miracle moves forward.
Yeah, Judy ends up hitting that Groundbreaker here. Warden's Cage still available for Sniper. Howling Blast going to connect, but there's the vault for the dodge. Sonya spinning to win there. Nacho Jin getting rid of that army of the dead. Sniper moves up, but Glaurung now dives onto the backline. Everybody kind of split all over, but Miracle, 25 skeletal defenders and counting.
Mounting up for Miracle. It looks like success will be achieved unless Tempo Storm has one more round to go. It looks like as 31 is near, they're willing to commit a little bit farther. Glaurung will get the shield, but there's going to be the toss to taunt, and that's going to be the end of Glaurung. That's going to be a kill in this fight. Miracle will move forward, and Tempo Storm will just have to retreat. And without much in the way for defense, this could be another fort falling, and 13 achieved. Miracle could get aggressive here.
It's very important to note that, again, we have never seen the Warden's Cage pop here. Keep your eye on Sniper. If anybody on Tempo Storm, knowing that those heroics were used recently, oversteps at all, it is very likely that we see him pulling the trigger there to make sure he can secure 2 to 3 kills here over Tempo Storm. The 13 talents here will be picked up very, very soon as that top fort ends up falling and the siege continuing. The question is here, does Miracle want to go for the keep front wall or cycle that pressure towards mid lane and look for the later stages of this game?
We've seen different philosophies across different regions. I think you bring up an excellent point, because while getting that keep wall down does give you some initial experience, it doesn't necessarily set you up for later game success other than just in the experience department. It looks like they are going to cycle out, get more of that experience through the mid lane, try and soften up. You get the fort down, that's a nice chunk of XP, but it also opens up if the next Punisher is mid. This is a prime position to be in to really start to capitalize in the later stages of the game.
And one of the big reasons I love this play from Miracle is not only for that safer kind of standard looking towards the future minutes, but again, bringing it back to the laning phase. Tempo is yet to remain in control at any point of this game. When you remove that middle fort, that's a lot of vision control, and I feel like the last kind of pillar of hope, really, for Tempo Storm when it comes to controlling and understanding the laning situation. Now, because all 3 forts down, that line of scrimmage has moved so far to the left-hand side that it feels like the map is just blank, and the question is, where's Miracle? Are they around this shrub? Are they on this shrub? And I can tell you this much, you don't want to walk into the one where they are. You don't last too long there.
Yeah, the amount of plays that they can make around that, they have the vision with Hanzo. You can see Sniper constantly using that. He is the biggest threat when you look at this team. Just getting the dismount sometime, allowing for Garrosh to move forward. For Tempo Storm Dreadnought, they find themselves 2 levels behind, maybe too far behind the 8-ball here, because Tassadar has finished his Psy Storm quest. You know he loves that Psionic Echo at 16 to really put out that damage. You got the bigger radius, you got the bonus damage. Illidan as well, stacked up, but are they too far behind to really get value out of those, because some of these fights are going to turn desperate soon?
I would like to say that I think that they have one more remaining team fight to get that power play with the 13 and a 15 window, but with how just unclose a lot of the skirmishes have been, I don't know if they have the opportunity. Cattle's going to get flipped over. Got a nice tether back there from Sniper, but it's an Arthas, not typically the guy you want to have that Frozen Tempest on to all the members of Miracle here. They decide to opt out here of this skirmish, knowing that Tempo Storm rounding that 13. This might be one of the only ways they can make their way back in. So safe play here from Miracle.
Yeah, we'll see if they do become aggressive. Dreadnought, you mentioned cycling out on that top Punisher to maybe get an advantage elsewhere. It will be the Shrine in that mid lane. So if Miracle does get that down, it's an easy run. And now you start to threaten not just keep walls, but keeps. And if you get kills and beyond that, it could be core. We'll see. Tempo Storm with that 13 to 15 fight though, Dreadnought. They're starting to move in. Fan being flipped in.
Lunar Flare goes down, but the hunt on the backline. Blue Beetle's in a bad spot, and he's actually going to go down. Tempo find their first kill, but it comes at the cost there of Fan. 1 for 1 so far. Cattle on the point, has a lot of HP there. Illidan going to dash back in. Nacho Jin falling very low, and Glaurung actually trying to find the kill into the fray, saves his life. Judy flips it over, and Tempo Storm losing so many members. Frankel in the corner with that scatter arrow, just cleaning up shop.
If it's not for that scatter arrow, it seemed like some miscommunication. Glaurung dove on that back line. They got the initial kill, but they were so close to getting so much more on that point. Caterpillar held on for so long, and Tempo Storm didn't have the necessary focus. We're going to take another look at that, because you'll see the initial hunt in. It's great. It's everything that happens beyond this that you needed more from them.
Yeah, it's a really big point to bring up there. So much focus onto the objective itself when it came to Glaurung and when it came to Cattle and everything of the like here. But then look at Frankel on the back end. 2-man Dragon's Air comes in with that Stormbolt. Sniper automatically adjusting the focus there. That's one of those situations where it's a great use of baiting your front line in order to convert your focus and dive onto the back line. All set up there by Frankel, a rising star not only within Korea, but at the international stage here at the HGC Finals.
For Miracle, they sit up 16 to 14 now. Nice scatter arrow there by Frankel. Ven is being punished. Frankel says, hold on, I might not be done yet. See if he gets another scatter arrow instead. He's gonna rip it. There's gonna be the end of the fray. And that is perfect execution to get another kill there. That is so well played. We have to stay low and listen, trying to get more. Glaurung trying to survive. They actually take down Hanzo, maybe an overcommitment. Now Judy trying to walk away. Glaurung staying on top of this. The healing potions coming in. Judy, though, starting to fall, but the root will keep Glaurung in, but Cattle helps track this down for another kill, Dread.
Warden's Cage used to be able to try and stop the retreat here, or stop the advance of Tempo Storm, and ends up bringing Cattle back for a moment. Sniper finding so many resets now on top of June. One more auto, and he will end up getting it. Now Cattle so very low. Glaurung finds a friend within him to be able to get away, but will Sniper let him escape? Tethered there, not going to pull it back. He will. Phantom Knives there. Nacho Jin finishes the job. 4 for 3. Tempo taking a risky scrap, but maybe pays off when looking at experience.
It is weird, right? Because you're like, all right, you lost the fight. But then you got to think about when you're down, Dreadnought, there is such a thing in Heroes called comeback experience. So every kill that you get, it favors the team that's down. You get more experience out of each of those kills. So now all of a sudden you look up at the scoreboard. It was 13 to 15. Imagine, or 14 to 16. Imagine trying to defend this 15 to 16, 15 to 17.
Not going to happen.
Now you have that 16 talent tier available. It was a risk worth taking. You still have a lot more to go beyond that before that 20 tier, but that was a calculated risk there for Tempo.
Yeah, I definitely appreciate the opportunity and being able to cite that and willing to take it here from Tempo Storm. But as you said, there's still more to be proven here. That was about probably one of the best silver linings we've gotten from them so far on Shrines. But here we see Mercenaries picked up, map painted red here, and a Frozen Punisher going to be joining Miracle here through the mid lane. There's a lot of follow-up initiation to this Punisher leap here, Jay. How sidewalls are very important. Getting a dodge here over the leap is very, very, very crucial for Tempo Storm.
Yeah, Cattle will get the bait. They have a lot of damage potential to get this out. You can see the Psy Storms going down. The Immortal already down to 65%. The keep is still very much threatened, and Core is threatened if it snowballs out of control because the initiation tactics, Hyperion used in defense, Dread.
Leap in 3, therefore the objective itself comes through. Does anybody get a follow-up? No, it seems like Fort is going to be the focus. That Hyperion is actually scaring a lot of Miracle there. I thought for sure they would look for that heavy follow-up, but not wanting to take a risk. Lunar Flare stopping Judy there from getting a mount up. Now Nacho Jin questioning if he can get out for free. Fan trying to get some pepper, trying to get that slow scroll the ceiling. The hunt coming through. Glaurung now going to get flipped over.
He's isolated, but there's going to be the stun coming in, or at least the lockdown. Glaurung still trying to track down. Frankel with another great scatter arrow, just chunking away some of these health bars. Tempo Storm, they're trying to commit, trying to force that, but Miracle playing safe, playing disciplined. That's a very good defense for Tempo Storm, Dread, that they saved the keep, but then you look up, 19 to 17. Miracle will be at 20 by the time the next Shrine phase starts, unless Tempo Storm is able to do something and do it soon. And right now they're moving forward, maybe looking for a fight right here, but another phenomenal scatter arrow.
That was huge. Chunk and Fan there, even with his passive going off. Cattle's going to try and contest here, knowing that the 20 is not quite there. Glaurung for now is the focus here of Miracle. Tonko's through. Glaurung, he's out of here. Stay a while and listen. Is not going to connect with anybody there from Blue Beetle, but Tempo Storm down a man and about to be down a 20 tier advantage. Miracle pretty much get to select what objective they would like to take from this point on.
They're just making the safe rotations, getting that experience. They see the weighted XP in that tower. That tower goes down, 20 is picked up. Now you have the threat of 20 with exposed keeps. You can move forward, get some of these lanes. Vin getting targeted there with the top lane being the next one. Dreadnought, you'd love to have that off lane catapult pressure. Miracle, they've got their eye on this bottom lane for now, but nice clear. The Tassadar with that Psionic Echo able to clear up a lot by himself. So Miracle, they'll just start to rotate out as Illidan 5 seconds away from spawning.
Miracle get easy work here over this middle keep. And as you said, Tempo Storm, without that 20, this is unlike the last situation where you want to take that risky fight and things like you're down so much and you're so close to your core. You know, if you fail that fight, you pretty much lose the game there, but it is going to be a grim picture even when looking at the next Shrine phase here for Tempo Storm. It's a tough moment here for North America.
That bottom camp will be spawning soon. Tempo Storm might look to take that camp with the Illidan pressure and really push down that bottom lane. And as much as Miracle wants to respond, or how they choose to respond will be interesting. I think Tempo Storm would have loved to make a play around that, but they don't have enough vision. They're down that 20 talent tier. They've got to find an advantage somewhere. I thought it might have been through that camp, but Maev up in that top lane, just kind of casually hanging out, doesn't have to push that experience back out towards their opponent.
And something we already saw a little bit here in this game is the bullseye pickup from Frankel there to be able to get the stun on the Tassadar. I've been talking about how important this dimensional shift is. I do wonder if he's going to find opportunities to be able to hit the Tassadar and force that early, where Hanzo normally would not be able to do so. And a lot of people go, well, why would you want that 1 second stun and things of the like? If you get that at the competitive level, when that cooldown's down, you have a follow-up, and that is named Dragon's Arrow. That thing is going to set the squad up very, very well. So Tempo has to tread so very lightly here over the next few minutes, or this very much could be Miracle's game.
I think you bring up a good point. I mean, Tassadar, it's not like you A-move with Tassadar. It's like, look, I got to stand still if I'm going to get some auto-attack damage out. Tempo Storm, Dreadnought, they have made their way towards that bottom with that Illidan. He's going to push forward. Tempo Storm, though, they can't afford to give the keep up before the Punisher gets here. So they're going to use that Illidan, get that pressure in that bottom lane, get some siege damage down. They get the fort that gives them the close to 20. But they're desperate right now to have that 20-tier advantage. No matter what, Dreadnought, that keep is exposed, and there's nowhere you bait that to because that middle keep is already down.
31 here of the Skeletal Defenders. And as we've talked about, 20 will be picked up thanks to Galorong here. The question really is can Tempo defend this Punisher? It's a tough one with how much follow-up we have. Talking about Frankel with the stay a while and listen. Garrosh is not too shabby himself with the Groundbreaker. Sidewall still going to be a focus here, likely for Miracle. Nope, Chuck Testa, no sidewall available. Heck, no even front gate available.
Well, here we go. Miracle, they're looking to end the game right now. Tempo Storm just picked up 20. Punisher moving forward, as is Sniper on that. See if they can get the follow-up. Hyperion out in response. Keep starting to take damage as Miracle turns their attention directly towards that. Once that goes down, that Punisher and team will move forward, but the Punisher already down to 60%. See if Miracle can close it out.
Yeah, lead coming up in a few as well. Tempo's got to tread lightly there. Cattle able to make it out. Hunt now on the backline there from Galorong, but he quickly realizes that might be high-risk, low-reward situation. Now backing out, but the Punisher making its way to the keep, looking towards those shields. Cattle for now is the focus for Nacho Jin. Fan trying to do his best. Lunar Flare comes out. There is the Starfall. Judy and friends back out for a moment. Nacho Jin falling extremely low, J-Howe.
Ancient Blessings pop to try and stay alive. They need to turn to get some autos. There's going to be the taunt. Judy on the front line somehow surviving. The Dragon Arrow in return. It's a 1-for-1 trade. Warden's cage is down. This is chaos right now. But Miracle low. They're trying to run away from this Illidan composition. And right now they have managed to retreat. But Sniper says, hold on, I'm not done yet. Goes back in, Dread.
If Glau ends up getting one of these kills, he might be able to clean up the rest of the team. But look at that two-man flip out from Judy. And he quickly says, no, Tempo Storm. That was all calculated here. Tempo now down 3 members, a 4th, and about to be, I was going to say a 5th. This fan actually gets the outplay for a second there on Frankel, but it is not going to matter. Shielding already gone. Miracle walk up here and take a very controlled and calculated game number 1 over Tempo Storm.
It's kind of weird, Dreadnought, because Miracle won. They were in control the entire game, but somehow Tempo Storm had a fight at the end. But then I look up and it's 18 kills to 4 to 6 actually. And I'm like, wait a minute, like that should have maybe been a little easier. Maybe I'm being skeptical here, but Miracle played such a controlled pace.
And I think what I would like to say is an answer to that. Why did that come across that way is very much like I used to talk about Zeratos. It's a lose less composition. Tempo Storm the whole time was actually out of control of that game. Though in many situations, it looked like they had moments where it's like, oh, here's an even Palantir fight, but they took it, realized they were losing it, backing out, and then go back to playing passive and just not losing in experience. But if you were to go and truly ask how many moments was Tempo Storm really competitive in that game, I'd be willing to argue 95% of the time. It was just, what is Miracle gonna do because we have to respond to them.
They were really good, a lot of controlled pace there. We're gonna send it back over to the panel so they can break that game down in more detail for you.
You know, I'm such a fan of Judy, and for good reason. Is Garrosh 10-0 in league play in part 2, undefeated. And if there's 2 things I love about him, it's that, I said this before, he creates a ton of space for the backliners, and he loves his aggressive into the frays. Good grief, he loves to throw his teammates into the fray.
It just, talking to some of the Korean players about it, it's kind of like, the sentiment is he doesn't know that it was not meant to be used that way. Like, it was not actually designed to be used to toss your teammates into, into battle and to fight others.
Yeah.
And, I mean, in Korea, Judy was a weak link tank for a long time because his hero pool was so small. And everyone always banned Garrosh against him because they respected his Garrosh at least. But in this tournament internationally, just allowing him to have it feels like a mistake, as we've seen in multiple moments in this game.
Yeah, and for Tempo Storm, we saw some adjustments there, bringing in the Tassadar Renner, even switching Vin and Fan, which is not something that I was expecting, especially since Vin has played a lot of Rainer. I feel like his penetrating rounds are really good at being able to peel for his teammates while having good positioning, but having Fan play that instead more of the hyper carry, and then another carry, having Glaurung Illidan come back, it just didn't quite work out for them.
Yeah, that was my main concern in the draft. I was saying, look, I don't want to see that Illidan come across based on how many threats there are for him to actually go up against. And it was such a scary proposition. You don't have the Medivh for that shield. You have a Tassadar, which you're relying on very heavily to give that burst mitigation. It's not always prevalent. They have a composition that wants to force those fights, has the ability to definitely siege, but you're up against a Garrosh that can do one of 2 things. He's fantastic at anti-siege, but he's also fantastic at shutting people down there, Wolf.
Certainly so. I have a little replay here just to kind of highlight this fight that happens pre-20. So if you look at the scenario here, Miracle's made a pretty risky decision. They don't have 20 yet, so they're going to take a fight against Tempo Storm on even talent tiers. This is an excellent opportunity for Tempo Storm to get back into the game if they can win this fight. Not only that, but if you take a quick look down here, you can see Glaurung is unscouted. They don't know where he is at the moment. So he's in a position where he could potentially get into the back line. Now, when we roll this forward, you can see that as the invade fails, everyone backs off from Team Miracle. So they give the camp up. Cattle in perfect position, right? But now you're going to see Glaurung attempt to dive the backline here with this Illidan all game long, trying to kill Frankel, getting stunned, getting slowed by Bluebeetle, just really, really struggling to make a big impact in these fights. And you can see how they actually are able to zone Vin out. Notice Vin is in a really bad spot here. He's completely cut off. Glaurung's trying to get in. He needs support. He needs the support from Vin. Tyrande has decent heals, but it's not burst heals, it's more sustain. You know, those double heals you're going to get. So Vin's struggling to get in here to save Glaurung. So as we roll it forward really slowly here, you're going to see the stuns come through for Glaurung. Vin is trying to get in here, but he just can't. The taunts come in. Look at the stun here. They actually even commit a big arrow down to stun him just to further prevent him from getting into this position to heal Glaurung. Glaurung needed to live a little bit longer for Cattle to come in here and for the rest of the team to actually get that consistent damage going. He can soak up a lot of that damage as Illidan if he's healed correctly. Fan can come in. Look at how low everyone's getting over here on the side of Miracle, but Vin just wasn't in the right spot. Had he been coming around this angle, or was it the better spot, not trying to flank as Tassadar almost, then he would have been able to help out a lot. I think it's kind of a DPS mindset sort of move here to actually be flanking with Glaurung rather than being in a safer spot to have guaranteed shields, and that costs them big. If we roll this forward, you can obviously see the fight does not go their way. Bluebeetle tosses down and stay a while. Listen, just to guarantee no one else can dive in further, and they don't get the camp, but they end up trading up. The camp becomes worthless at the end of the day.
Yeah, maybe a further consideration for Tempo Storm when they start to look at who is playing what. Yes, they are very flexible players, but making sure that people, especially like Vin, when they're in these high-pressure situations, are on their most comfortable heroes is maybe something to consider going forward. But really, it's just Miracle played that excellently and a good understanding.
I mean, another takeaway from that point there, Gilly, has to be the fact that they took that fight pre-20. So many teams do not want to force a fight pre-20. They made it happen. They're like, look, we want to be aggressive, and I think it really is a testament to how confident they are coming into the series. Look, hey, we want this 2-0. We are the team to watch out for. Yes, we have this track record up against Gen G. Are we this team that are going to ruin this narrative between Gen G and Dignitas?
And you
Yeah,
know
they took a risk and it paid off.
And they're up six structures. Like, there's 6 structures to 3, basically. So if you end up losing this fight and you totally fall apart, it's not like you're going to lose the game. But if you win it, you win the game. You get 20, you kill that keep. So I think it's absolutely a decent risk. Even if you lose, sure, Tempo gets kind of back into the game, but you're not going to lose the game over that moment.
Yeah, well, we are going to have game 2 right after a quick word from our sponsors.